Hello everyone, this is Miss Mika with Keep County Beautiful today. I hope y'all are having a great day. We are going to be talking about some beautification things that we can do. That's part of our organization. It's part of our name, isn't it? Keep County Beautiful. So we're going to talk about ways to keep our county looking beautiful. Now we've spent a lot of time talking about litter and the effects of litter, and even litter in water, and keeping your surface water and your underground water clean. But we're going to really focus on other ways to make things beautiful. And when you clean up litter, that does make a place look more beautiful. Absolutely. We see places that have litter strewn all about, and then when you go and you pick it up, it does look so much cleaner and so much better. But there's other things you can do besides picking up your litter to help make your area look more beautiful. So one of those things is to plant trees or flowers. So we're going to talk about both of those together. Normally we don't, but we're going to in this lesson. We're going to talk about both of those things together. So we know that when we plant trees and flowers, that just automatically makes the place look more beautiful. When you add more green into something, and then flowers are bloomed in all kinds of different colors, and trees have flowering trees have beautiful flowers on them, and of course now with it being fall, the leaves are changing color, and so it's just absolutely beautiful. There's all kinds of colors that's just out there, and so that just makes everything look more beautiful. But there's a lot more to having a tree or a plant or a flower, let me say it that way. There's more to it than having a tree and a flower planted than it just being beautiful. Okay, there's lots of benefits that we get from planting a tree or planting a flower, okay? And when I'm talking about a flower, I'm talking about any kind of plant, okay? So we're going to talk about some of the benefits of planting any kind of plant or tree or greenery or anything in your area where you live at, in your yard, your garden. Maybe you want to plant a tree in a park or somewhere like that. There's all kinds of benefits besides just the beautification part of it, okay? So when I say beautification is the process of making something beautiful. Now that may cover a whole lot of different things, and we're going to be doing some different videos on beautification, and you're going to learn about some different things. It may be that you just give a coat of paint to an old building, and that makes it look a lot better. If you've noticed in downtown Newport when you drive through, we've had a lot of buildings that have they've put in new windows, or they've painted the front of their building, or maybe they've put some kind of awning up that looks really nice. And all those things are beautification efforts. They are things that these people are doing to make our town look more beautiful and more appealing to the visitors who come. Because when people visit our county and our town, and they do, we have lots of visitors here, they want to visit a place that's nice looking and beautiful, and that makes them want to come back and visit us again. And that's what we want. We want people to come back and visit with us again, so we can share with them all the beautiful places in our county, because we live, in my opinion, in one of the most beautiful places in the whole world. So when we plant these trees and flowers, not only does it make it beautiful, but these plants and trees and flowers do a whole lot of other things for us, okay? When we plant trees and flowers and plants and even grasses, all of those living things are called a producer. They produce all of their own food. Now, are you a producer? Can you look at your hand and turn it into a pizza? That'd be really cool if we did, but we can't, okay? But trees and plants and flowers have a really cool trick about them. They can make their own food. Now, they don't make pizza, okay? But they take water from the roots, from the ground. They take sunlight that they've trapped in their leaves, and they take carbon dioxide out of the air through their leaves. And inside of the leaf, they take the chlorophyll, that's the green substance in the leaf. They take all of those things, and it goes through this chemical reaction that produces food for the plant. Okay, now that food is actually a sugar. So if you've ever eaten like stevia or anything like that, that is that same kind of sugar. It's a plant-based sugar that those plants and trees and shrubs and bushes and all that stuff, any of those things, that is the same type of sugar that they create for themselves and that they eat. So some of it they eat right away, and some of it they store for later, because a lot of our trees and flowers and plants, they end up dying away. Trees end up losing their leaves and they go what we call dormant for a while. It's kind of like they're asleep, but they're not really asleep. They're just not using as much energy. So they take all that stored up food, all that stored up sugar that they'd made, and that's what they live on through the winter. Kind of like how a bear hibernates. It's kind of the same kind of process, only a tree is not an animal, okay? So they make their own food, but in the process of making that food, there's some really cool things that happen, okay? All right, so I want you to take a really deep breath in with me, okay? Okay, that big deep breath that you took in, you just took in all kinds of oxygen out of the air that your body needed. Now take a really deep breath out. When you breathed out, you breathed out carbon dioxide. Okay, now when I was talking about the plants and the trees and bushes and stuff making their own food, I said that they use carbon dioxide. So let's think about this, okay? When I breathe out carbon dioxide, that is a waste from my body, okay? So anything that comes out of your body is a waste, all right? So when you go to the bathroom, all of those bathroom functions are a waste. When you blow your nose, the snot and the boogers is a waste. When you get earwax out of your ear, that's a waste. When your eyes drip and you have tears and little things that get matted up in the corner of your eyes, that is waste from your body. Your body is trying to get rid of things that you do not need. So when you breathe out, you're breathing out something that your body does not need. So you're breathing out this carbon dioxide. So let's talk about this real quick too. A lot of people think that when you hold your breath, that if you hold your breath for too long, that it's really bad for you because you don't get oxygen. That's actually not the case. It's really bad because that carbon dioxide is building up in your body, and that carbon dioxide is a poison to you. So instead of it being because you don't have oxygen, it's because you're building up all that poison in your body that has to come out, okay? So we breathe out this carbon dioxide. Now, every living thing gives off some kind of waste. We know this, right? You guys have dogs and cats and fish for pets, and some of you may have snakes and hamsters and all that stuff. Whatever you have for a pet, you know they make a waste too. They have bathroom functions just like we do. They spit, and sometimes they get little runny noses, and sometimes they get stuff in their eyes. They have waste that they give off too. And when they breathe in the oxygen, and when they breathe out the carbon dioxide. Well, if animals do that, do you think trees and plants do that? They absolutely do. They give off waste as well. So when a tree or a plant or a bush or whatever goes through this process to make their food, which we call photosynthesis, they make two things. They make the sugar, and then they make a waste. And that waste is oxygen. Now, is that not cool that the plant's waste is oxygen, and that's what we need to breathe? Our waste is carbon dioxide, and that's what the plants need in order to go through photosynthesis. Is that not cool how those two things are connected, and how that we're actually breathing in tree and plant waste, and they're breathing in our waste? It's kind of nasty to think about in a way, isn't it? But it's still super cool how that we have to rely on each other. If we don't have trees and plants and grasses and all that stuff, then we don't have the oxygen that we need. And if we don't have the oxygen that we need, then we're going to be in bad trouble, right? We won't be here. So they use our waste and we use their waste. So that's super important. That's one really great reason why to plant trees and plants and shrubs and all that stuff. So another thing is that when they do that, they're also cleaning the air. So they are taking out that carbon dioxide, but they also trap other pollutants in the air that can make you really sick. So sometimes when there's things in the air there shouldn't be, that's what causes people to have asthma and COPD and emphysema and all that stuff, because they get all that stuff down in their lungs that they didn't need, and their lungs don't know how to take care of it and how to get rid of it, and so it ends up making their lungs really sick, okay? So trees can help clean some of that stuff out of the air. So that's trees and plants and grasses, all that stuff. When I say trees, I'm talking about plants and everything. So all of those things work to keep our air clean. That's really cool, isn't it? So something else that trees and plants do is they help keep our water clean. You may be thinking, how in the world do they do that? But we've already learned that we have to have clean water, right? Clean water is super important for us. So tree roots, plant roots, grass roots, They're down in the ground. As the rain hits the ground and starts traveling through the ground to get to that aquifer like that we made the other day, and we watched it get dirty, as that water is traveling through the ground and the layers of rock, those roots are going to trap any pollutants that might have come in through the ground. Does it mean it's going to get rid of all of them? No, but it's going to help a whole lot. So it kind of acts like a water filter and filters out the contaminants from the water, any of the pollution. That's really cool, isn't it? So while those roots are in the ground as well, not only does it keep the water clean, but it keeps your dirt from washing away. So we've had a whole lot of rain this year, and sometimes we've seen mudslides and rock slides and stuff like that. And those things happen in areas where there's less trees, less plants, less flowers, less bushes, less shrubs. We all call that stuff vegetation. The less vegetation there is, the more likely there is to be a slide of some sort, because those roots hold all that stuff in place and keep it from washing away. So that's another good reason to plant flowers and trees and shrubs and all that stuff. Plant them on a bank so that when it rains, it won't wash all that stuff away. So another thing that plants and flowers and trees and all these things can do for us is they can give us food, okay? So we get apples and pears and peaches and bananas and nuts, like walnuts and pecans and almonds. All of those come from trees. And you think about all the plants that give us food, like cucumbers and tomatoes and green beans and corn. If we didn't have plants, we wouldn't have any of that stuff. And so it's not only just the food, but we also get medicine from the plants. A lot of, if people use essential oils and stuff, they use them like medicine. So that comes from plants and trees. And there's a lot of things. There's an ingredient called cellulose that is extracted from trees and plants. It's a sticky substance, and they put it in a lot of things to thicken. So a lot of medicines have cellulose in them that came from the plants. You wouldn't have thick shampoo if it wasn't for cellulose. You wouldn't have thick lotion if it wasn't for cellulose. They put cellulose in there to thicken all that stuff up so that it's not runny. Could you imagine trying to pour shampoo in your hand to wash your head and it all runs out of your hand before you get it to your head? That'd be horrible, wouldn't it? So they put that cellulose in there to thicken it up so it'll stay in your hand so that you can lather your head up. So that's another cool benefit of trees, isn't it? And we wouldn't have all the flavors. Could you imagine a world without chocolate? But if we didn't have plants, we wouldn't have chocolate. If we didn't have plants, we wouldn't have cinnamon. If we didn't have plants and trees and stuff, we wouldn't have peppermint. If we didn't have plants and trees, we wouldn't have vanilla. So we get all of those yummy flavors that we love to add in from plants and trees. So that's really important, isn't it? All right, so another thing that trees and plants do is, this is a really wild one to think about, but it helps to reduce noise. It helps to make the noise not as loud, okay? So like where I live at, I have a super duper long driveway. And so in the summertime, when all of the trees have their leaves out, I can't hear anything on the road unless it's a really, really loud car. But in the wintertime, when all the leaves are off the trees, we can hear the traffic on the road. Why is that? Sound travels in waves, okay? So while sound is traveling through waves, it's going to stay pretty steady and strong until it hits something. And when that wave hits something, that wave is going to break up and muffle that sound some. So as sound is moving through waves and it hits those tree leaves, that wave breaks up and muffles the sound. So when you plant trees and plants around your house, you're helping to reduce noise. When you plant them around your house, you're also keeping your house cooler, because trees and shrubs and bushes can offer shade. But in the wintertime, they also act like a blanket and help keep your house warmer. So it can actually help you with your energy bills. You don't have to use as much air conditioning in the summer. You don't have to use your heater as much in the winter, because it's going to help you do all of those things, okay? All right, so I think that is about all of the things that the benefits of having trees and plants do. I'm looking at my list here. I think that is pretty much it. All right, so if you're going to plant a tree or a flower or a plant or a bush, what kind do you need to plant? Okay, so I'm going to bust a lot of people's bubbles here, okay, because my husband's a forester. And he doesn't let me have certain types of trees and stuff because certain types of trees and plants and flowers don't belong in Tennessee. So, boo hiss, but that's just the way it is. Okay? So, if you're going to plant a tree or a flower or a plant, you need to make sure that that bush or that vegetation, whatever it is you're growing, whatever you want to plant, you need to make sure that it is native. Native means that it is from here. It is adapted to living here. So you guys who are watching this who are in 4th grade, adaptations is a big part of your science. So that means it has everything that it needs in order to live here. Okay? So we know that we can bring in other plants and stuff that don't belong here, and they do fare pretty well here. But these native plants were meant to be here. They have everything that they need in order to survive. They don't need anything extra. So you may think about, when you plant a new tree or a flower or something, it may say that you have to water it every day. A native plant does not have to be watered every day because a native plant will get all of the water that it needs from the soil, okay? Native plants do not take a lot to keep them alive. They grow on their own because this is where they're supposed to be, and they get everything out of the ground and out of the air and stuff that they need, okay? So, those weeping willow trees that I absolutely love, and I would love to have one at my house because I love how the branches all droop down. Guess what? They're not native. So guess what? Miss Mickey don't have one at her house because her husband won't let her. I like mimosa trees, which have the big pink blooms on them, and they're so pretty. But guess what? They're not native. So guess what? Miss Mickey doesn't have one at her house. I'm telling you, he sucks the life out of me. No, I'm just kidding. I'm aggravating. He doesn't. But he does not let me have anything that's not native. So it's kind of a bummer, but that's just how it is. That's what happens when you marry a forester. If you want to plant pretty stuff at your house, don't marry a forester, okay? They'll make you plant native. But he has found me some pretty cool bushes and stuff to plant in the place. And it kind of makes up for the fact that I don't have a weeping willow tree a little bit. I still really want one. And one of these days I'm going to get one, sneak it, and plant it. And be like, oh, well, sorry, it's here. So anyways, if you're going to plant, you need to plant native. Now, what's the opposite of that? So I mentioned a couple of those things, like a mimosa. A mimosa is an invasive plant, okay? An invasive tree. So the word invasive comes from invader, okay? Invade. If you invade somewhere, you're going where you're not wanted, where you don't belong. And you went in probably in the hopes that you're going to take over. That's what an invasive plant does. It goes in where it doesn't belong. Somebody planted it there where it doesn't belong, and it takes over, okay? So if you live up towards Del Rio or Cosby, you know an invasive plant very well, kudzu. Somebody brought it over because it does have a pretty flower on it. It does smell good, and it's a very quick covering ground cover, but it takes over everything. And there's not a whole lot of things here in Cocke County that will eat kudzu. Yes, goats will eat it and stuff, but they don't eat it at a rate to where it can be controlled. So it covers everything, okay? So kudzu is a great example. A royal paulownia is another invasive. Tree of heaven is another invasive that we have. I'm trying to think of some others off the top of my head. Japanese honeysuckle, even though we all love honeysuckle because it smells so good and everything, honeysuckle is an invasive, okay? So those are things that don't belong here. Now we do have a native honeysuckle that belongs here. It doesn't grow as quick as the Japanese honeysuckle, and it lives in harmony with the other plants and stuff. It doesn't try to take over, okay? So along with this video, I'll be sending a PowerPoint with you guys, and your teachers can show it to you, of native plants and native trees. So in that, the first plant that's mentioned is our state flower, which is an iris. And it's not actually the iris that you see planted in people's yards. It's actually an iris that grows in the wild. It's a little bitty iris, about like this. And they're usually like a dark purple or a light purple. And that's our state flower, those little bitty irises. We have a bunch growing around where I live at. And they're so cute. They're just so teeny tiny. But that's our state flower. So some others that we have, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, I think was jewelweed, which is the ones that a lot of people call them touch-me-nots because they have seed pods that pop. That is native. Goldenrod is native. Ironweed is native. Joe Pye weed is native. Those are all things that are bloomed right now because it's fall. Our state tree is a tulip poplar. That is native. A black walnut is native. A red oak tree and a white oak tree are all native. And there's a couple of things on the slides that are native that are super special because they're only found around here. That's it. They're not found anywhere else in the world. There's a flower called Rugel's ragwort. It's really not a pretty flower. It's actually an ugly flower. But it's really cool because it's only found in the Great Smoky Mountains. It's not found anywhere else in the world, just here. So that's pretty cool. That's a native plant that belongs here. It was put here, and it has everything it needs in order to live. Another a native tree that is only found here and nowhere else in the world is a Table Mountain pine. That pine tree has pine cones that has little stickers on it and stuff. And most pine cones, when they fall, they are shut. They're closed with sap and rosin. But as they dry out, that pine cone opens, and inside that pine cone is the seeds that come out, and that's what another pine tree grows from. The Table Mountain pine does not dry out. The only time it dries out is when it's on fire. And then it will drop its seed and start to grow. Okay? That's super special because that's only found here in the Smoky Mountains. That's it. And they are here in Cocke County. So that's pretty cool. And they're actually monitoring where the fires were at in Gatlinburg. Forestry is actually monitoring to see how many Table Mountain pines come up because of all these fires, because there were Table Mountain pines there. So they're actually expecting to see quite a few Table Mountain pines grow because of all those fires that happened. So that's really cool because that's only found around here. And that's pretty special to say, isn't it? And that's another reason why we should work so hard to keep our county looking beautiful, because we have some flowers and trees and stuff that only belong here. So that's something to really be proud of and to take pride in and to want to make sure that our county looks pretty, okay? So now we have a couple activities for you guys to do. In your bag, you're going to have a pudding cup, and you're going to have a cookie, you're going to have a little thing of coconut, and you're going to have a spoon, you're going to have a piece of paper. So we're going to make a flower, okay? So on your piece of paper, you're going to draw a flower. Here's my flower. Yes, I know, I'm a great artist right there, but anyways, that's my flower. Okay, you're going to take some glue, and listen very carefully to this. You're going to glue it on the handle of your spoon. Do not glue it right here. This is where you stick that into your mouth, right? So do not glue it right there. Glue it on the handle, okay? Because it's food. You're going to eat it. I know everybody's like, are we going to eat this? Are we going to eat this? Yes, you're going to eat it. So don't stick it down here. You don't want to be eating glue, okay? All right, so when you get your flower cut out, you're going to glue it to the handle of your spoon. That's your flower, and here's the stem. Now you've got to plant your flower, right? So plants need a couple of things to grow, right? They need dirt, they need water, and they need sunlight. Okay, so you're going to take the lid off of your, that's going to make a mess. There we go. Throw it away so it don't make a mess. Take the lid off of your pudding. And this is your lovely dirt that you're going to plant your flower in, but we're not done. We're not ready to plant it just yet, okay? Because we're going to be super good gardeners, and we're going to put some compost around where we're going to plant our flower, because we want it to grow really well, don't we? No Miracle Grow for us, because that stuff is just chemicals. So we're going to put some good old-fashioned homemade compost in there. So you're going to crumble your cookie up, and you're going to put it in your dirt, okay? Now, everybody's going to have some coconut. It's dyed green to look like grass. If you do not like coconut, you do not have to put it in. But if you do like coconut, go ahead and sprinkle some around the top, because you're going to make some really pretty grass. Because flowers always look better when they've got all that nice grass around them, right? Alright, so there is my pretty grass. I've got my compost underneath so my flower can grow good. And I am going to plant my flower. And look how pretty that is. I just made this office so beautiful by planting my flower, didn't I? So there's that, okay? So when you get finished with this other activity, and when your teacher says so, you can eat that, okay? Now, also in your bags, you're going to have a tree trunk, okay? And you're going to have 3 things of paint. you're going to use your fingertips to do this, okay? I don't have paint, so I am going to color my fingertips with magic markers. Don't do that, okay? You've got paint to use, but don't get the paint everywhere else, okay? All right, so you have red and yellow and green, so you're going to stick one finger in the red, one in the green, and one in the yellow, okay? So then you take your finger and you're going to make leaves on your trees. See how I took my finger and I made little leaves on my trees. You're going to do that for each color. So now I'm going to use my middle finger. And there's that one. Isn't that pretty? The yellow right through there. And then you're going to use the green. So use a different finger for your green so you don't get your colors all mixed up. And put you some green leaves on there. And then you're going to have a colorful tree. Hopefully yours will be a little bit more colorful than mine. But you'll have a nice colorful tree, and it's a perfect little craft to do for the fall. Now, you may have noticed when you opened up your paints, if you're not allergic, because we're going to check with your teachers to make sure whether you're allergic or not, the red should have a certain smell to it. The yellow should have a certain smell to it, and the green should have a certain smell to it. The red is cinnamon. Cinnamon comes from a tree. The green is peppermint. Peppermint comes from a tree. The yellow is vanilla. Vanilla comes from a tree too. So if we didn't have trees, we wouldn't have all those awesome flavors, would we? All right, so I hope you learned a lot about planting trees, the importance of planting trees and flowers, and how that they can make things beautiful. You made 2 beautiful projects to share, and I hope you have a great day, and we will see you later. Bye.